Good morning, everybody. Welcome. This is your first connection with us. We have some folks from the Pittsburgh Steelers with us today. We have Chelsea Zahn, who is the Partnership Activation Manager. We also have Kurt Gingrich, the Corporate Partnership Manager. And they work with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And my name's Nick. I work with the Northwest Tri-County Intermediate Unit. And part of the reason why we're doing this connection is because of the Northwest PA Job Connect, which is our workforce development board. So quick shout out to them and special thanks to them because this wouldn't be happening without them. We also have Ann Conti on the call, and she's going to be fielding some questions and answers a little bit later on. But you'll notice in somewhere on your screen, whether or not you're using a PC or a Mac, that you probably have like a conversation bubble with a question mark in it. That's the Q&A. The whole time that Chelsea and Kurt are talking, feel free to throw some questions in there. We're not going to stop the presentation or stop them talking to answer that. What we will hold on to those questions and we'll ask them to our professionals here shortly. So please feel free to put those questions in as you hear what they're talking about. And yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Chelsea, and I'm going to send Chelsea live. So we'll be able to see Chelsea in a second. And there's Chelsea. So Chelsea, welcome. Good morning. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for having us. Everyone.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your role as the Partnership Activation Manager? What the heck does that mean? What do you do?
It's a very fancy title for managing accounts in sports sponsorship. But everyone, I'm Chelsea. As you can see, I'm a Partnership Activation Manager for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the 6-0 Pittsburgh Steelers right now. We're feeling great. We're feeling excited about the season, especially during a time that we're all just trying to get through. So Kurt will elaborate on his position in a moment, but my position is really the next step after selling sponsorships for the NFL here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I manage the sponsorships such as Ford, Heinz, FedEx, PNC Bank. As you guys may see some logos on some signage at Heinz Field, or you may have attended a couple of the events that we have outside of the games, or if you've seen some advertising on our website. I have my hands in a little bit of everything here in managing and ensuring that the assets that our partnerships purchase from us are executed and are analyzed.
So let me get this straight. So somebody from, say, Ford, they contact you and they say, hey, we want to have a logo somewhere in Heinz Field. Mm-hmm. They work with you to get that. Is that right?
More so with Kurt, but yeah, we work in tandem together, ensuring that Ford's logo, if you will, is put together on a sign.
Okay, so there's other, besides logos, there's other kind of sponsorships that they have. What would be another example of a sponsorship?
Yeah, so we, if to put this simply, we're really like a marketing agency. We're a voice or a microphone for some of these brands that call in, get in touch with somebody like Kurt, and kind of tell us what their objectives are, what their needs are. Do they want more fans to see their brand? Do they want our fans to interact with their brand? Do they want to, we'll use Ford as an example, do they want to sell more vehicles? So we develop a partnership that could include email marketing, social media, again, exposure on some signage during the games at our stadium. Maybe we'll put some customized events together for them to help reach our fans. So the unique part about this is that every single partnership we have is very different, which to me is an exciting part of this.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So we're going to switch it over to Kurt. Kurt, why don't you share with us a little bit about your title as Corporate Partnership Manager as we send this live. All right, you're on.
Morning, everyone. Thanks for having us. I'm Kurt Gingrich, Corporate Partnership Manager with the Steelers. And much of what Chelsea just talked about with her description, like she said, I do everything that comes before that. So my job is really to understand the values of our platform and that microphone that Chelsea talked about, what our values are of an organization, how we could help a brand and then just really have an understanding from a local economic level, a regional economic level, and then knowing that you guys are all from this area. You know what it's like when the Steelers go on the road. So we also have a very national platform. And being able to help brands leverage that from a local, regional, and national level is really what my job is. So having an understanding of what brands are coming into Pittsburgh, something on a very relatable level to all of us. If you guys start seeing a bunch of Chipotles popping up around the area, that's my job to have a good idea that Chipotle wants to have a lot of people eating their food around the area. And you guys are all tuned in, looking to what's happening with the Steelers on a regular basis. They know that you care about what we have to say. So is there a unique way that we can integrate Chipotle across our platforms, what you guys might be seeing on Instagram, what you might be getting sent to your emails, and then what you might be seeing at the stadium on game day? Is there a way that we can weave all of that together based on what Chipotle is trying to accomplish when they come into our market? That can also be on another level. There could be a big corporation in the area. Like Chelsea said, she manages PNC. But if you look around when you drive into the city and you see all those companies that are on the buildings, on the skyscrapers downtown, I look at those every morning on my drive in, and I hope some of them want to talk to me at some point in the coming weeks, because a lot of those companies are very committed to our community, to our region. They're large employers of all of us, of my friends, of my parents. My aunts and uncles, so they want to give back to our communities, and there's ways that together the Steelers and those organizations can also give back for causes that are important to us and for causes that are important to them. So my job is just trying to find a way to weave all of that together into one cohesive program or story, if you will, that focuses on all of their objectives. And then Chelsea does a fantastic job of making sure everything that I kind of come up with gets accomplished and fulfilled so that we're representing those brands in the best light possible.
That's that's something that a lot of people you see when you watch a football game or a baseball game. You see a lot of those signs. So you guys are behind the scenes to make sure that these private organizations who are coming to you, because you have such a huge fan base. So my next question for you is, Kurt, is I imagine you guys have some kind of data in terms of how many followers you have on, whether it's on TV or whether it's in the stands. So how does that kind of data play into, you negotiating or coming up with a price for a company to say, hey, we want to get this out there. We have this many followers. Does your followers drive up the price, or to drive down the price? How does that work?
It certainly drives up the price when you have the kind of following that the Steelers have. We're lucky to have it. And when you can drive a lot of eyeballs in marketing, there's an extended price that comes with that. So we have the third largest fan base in the NFL nationally. That's something that we don't take lightly. And we also understand that we have a fan base that they really identify with our logo, with our marks, and what it means to be a fan of the Steelers. So things as well as like the terrible towel, those are all identifying factors that mean a lot to people. And when you have something that really can tap into someone's loyalty, we don't take lightly the power that can have when someone is ultimately making purchasing decisions at the grocery store, when they're trying to find what they want for lunch or dinner, or what brands they're supporting within the community, who they want to work for. So those are all different things that we take into account. And really, that's something that we just kind of have a better idea of internally. And then when we put these programs together, we put a valuation to that. And that's kind of something that we handle behind the scenes. And then my job is to really understand why that is the fair value for what we're taking to someone. We're not trying to price gouge or do anything like that, but we have a very good understanding of what things are worth. I always like to use the analogy of real estate. And if you understand property value, or what the cost of your house is in your neighborhood, and all that goes into getting that cost We do the same on our end, whether that's signage in our stadium, whether that's the real estate on our Twitter account, on our Instagram account, and buying that real estate, if you will, as a brand and being associated with that real estate comes with a cost. So we certainly take into account the data behind the scenes of how many people we know are going to be able to potentially see that real estate that you're buying, and then that all goes into that cost. Again, because we're a very national, because of our national reach, there's also ways that we have to be able to really critically listen and understand what a brand's coming to us with, and understand how their businesses are built. So there's a lot of brands that come to us. Say Chelsea manages the Ford account. The Ford brand as a whole lives at a very national level, but then there are brands at we call it a tier 2 or a tier 3 level that buy into being able to sell that brand. So if there's a brand that comes to us and they're strictly a regional seller of Fords, we have to understand maybe they don't want to reach someone that's a Steelers fan that lives in California, because their money is not really helping that. So understanding what content we're putting out, what signage positions, what signage in the stadium, all kind of those things that can really help accomplish their goals and maximize the dollars that they're supporting our organization with is really important. So knowing that data and those numbers at a granular level really helps us on the back end be able to, one, yes, have a fair valuation of what we're asking for that alignment and that association, but two, also make sure that every single dollar that is being spent with the organization from a marketing level is being maximized and done so in a manner where we're not wasting that support that we're receiving.
That makes perfect sense. Chelsea, we're gonna switch over to you here. I'm gonna throw a question at you. In your day to day, what would you say is your biggest responsibility or something you spend the most time on?
I spend the most time analyzing the performance of these assets, just kind of coming off of Kurt's elaboration and explanation on, understanding the objectives and the reach. My job is to, again, work with all types of media forms. So that's email, digital, social, television exposed signage, just really looking at reports and saying, hey, this is how many people have seen your logo or seen your brand. This is how many people attended these events pre-COVID. This is how many people actually, these are what their behaviors are like. It's so fascinating to study Steelers fans, who they are, where they live, where they come from, where their interests lie. That way we can tell better stories and help educate, folks like Kurt to go into a presentation and to be an absolute expert on everything that we sell, why we sell it, and to really say, hey, at the end of this season or the end of this 3-5 year partnership, you're going to receive this return on investment in measurables such as millions and millions of impressions, engagements, and the amount of people that have essentially purchased your product, because our Steelers fans are more likely to support our sponsors than just seeing an average commercial on TV or something like that.
So would you say that you deal with, so it sounds like you're dealing with a little bit more analytics and the data behind the scene. Would you say that?
Very much so. On a day-to-day basis, a little more on the analytics side, but on the other hand, depending on what partnerships I do manage and the things that change year after year, I get to do things such as putting video shoots together, helping a brand film a commercial at Heinz Field, all the way to developing invitations or working with graphics, Photoshop, things like that. It really varies. I don't always get to talk about the work that I do, but the more I do, I just realize that there's a lot that comes with being an activation manager in partnerships.
Yeah. And so let's transition into while we have you here, Chelsea. Based on a lot of those big responsibilities you have, what would you say if somebody were to want to work in a position like yours? What interests do you have to have, or maybe abilities or skills?
I think the most probably important one, especially if you're working in the NFL, is just to have a love for football. I think being born and raised in Pittsburgh, you naturally root for the Steelers. Some of you may have been born with a terrible towel in the hospital when you were a baby. The tradition that's passed down from generation to generation and rooting for the Steelers and celebrating the Steelers and the camaraderie that comes with being a Steelers fan really helps the job. It helps you speak about your brand and again, understanding your fans. But also, I think multitasking is the number one thing that I have to do, and was something that, obviously you guys are in high school, you're managing classes and homework, and maybe you're in band, maybe you're an athlete. That's a very important skill to manage your schedule. But, once you get into college, I think that multitasking gets elevated. But then when you're in a role like this, it's like times 100 in the things that you have to do all day long. I manage only 22 of the 70 partnerships that we have. I have a couple of other colleagues doing the same thing. And again, it's just manage the account, but also manage the relationships that you have, also manage the internal relationships that you have and have to work with those folks internally. It's a very highly multitasking type of work.
So it's that time management aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you're 22 out of 70 partnerships. Wow. Kurt, we're going to come back to you. I'm going to send you live here. And I'm going to ask you the same question, essentially. What abilities and interests, if somebody wanted to, find themselves in your position or a position similar, what interests and abilities do you have to be an asset to the Steelers?
Yeah, I think everything Chelsea said certainly also carries over to my role. I love what I do. I love the Steelers. I love the game of football, and I love sports in general. So that was really a foundational thing that I looked for growing up. I wanted to work in sports, and then I found corporate partnerships just was the perfect marriage of being able to really hone what I understood. But I think I have a good mind for business and marketing with something that I love. So I knew that I would have fun what I was doing every single day when I came to the office. So I think that passion is really a requirement and something that you should take a lot of time reflecting on before you really think about what you're going to major in or where you want to go to school. All of those things are really fundamental. I think in more advanced level and the abilities that I've really used on a day-to-day basis, I think creativity is really important in what I do. Understanding just unique ways to tell someone's story as a brand, and look at, we call them synergies, but kind of like the marriages of some values of what the Steelers brand represents and what their brand is trying to represent. I'll give an example here. One of the things that I always look for in a company is if they call them a challenger brand, or someone that's new on the scene, really trying to make a name for themselves. The Steelers, on the other hand, are one of the more blue chip, really, we have very strong roots within the NFL and within our community. So, and one way of looking at that is if you really want to make your presence felt, having a partnership and an alignment with the Steelers kind of helps really speed up that process of integrating your brand with the community. So that's something from a creative level that I'm always thinking about, is how can what our brand represents help a brand, and that can be another blue chip brand or that can be a startup brand. And then when our conversations extend more towards the negotiation process, we think we have a potential deal at hand, a new partnership, or we're able to bring a current partner back on board for a longer term agreement. Being a problem solver, being a quick thinker are two really important things to be able to lean on. So just always understanding the importance of being prepared has really helped me be a quick thinker. I don't like leaving my email inbox full at the end of the day. So I think work ethic is a skill. I don't just think it's something that you can push yourself to be good at. I think you need to understand and prioritize what you need to do on a day-to-day basis so that each day you walk into the office, you're not going to be caught off guard. And then I think from a problem-solving standpoint, being a really good listener is something that has always helped me, trying to understand and really analyze what someone's challenges are, what their objectives are, and then thinking that through from beginning to end has always helped me, so that by the time we are at that negotiation process, it's going to be difficult for them to really rip apart what I've put in front of them, because I've already thought through all of the different things that they could come up with.
That's great. Now, I want to throw it out to our audience too. Don't hesitate to throw any Q&A in there. We'll get to it towards the end. But Kurt, I got to ask. You said the Steelers were number 3 in terms of fan base. Who's 1 and 2?
So the Cowboys are always up there, and then the Patriots as well. But now that Tom is down in Tampa, we haven't seen the new numbers come out yet, but they've been riding a wave of TB12 for a while. We'll see if that changes. Things have been slow. As Chelsea said to start the call, we are 6-0. So new fans come on board, new fans leave. It all kind of happens, but it certainly, in terms of how you kind of see how our brand is dispersed, it's pretty cool, because we truly, one of the things that's always amazed me is within our region. So call it a tank of gas from Pittsburgh is kind of how I put it. But that only represents 25% of our fan base. So when they talk about Steelers Nation, understand that 3/4 of people that identify as a Steelers fan across the country are everywhere else. And I think that you see that kind of with these big name brands. The Cowboys are the same way. Prior to coming back here and working for the Steelers, I was in Washington, D.C. It always amazed me on NFL Sundays. I almost felt like there were more fans of all of the other teams than there were of the Washington football team. So it's always interesting to see that with these national brands. When you win some Super Bowls, when you have success, people are paying attention far and wide.
Yeah. Now you started to dabble into some of those soft skills, aka soft skills, or what we call career skills. You mentioned speaking and listening are important. Talk a little bit about the importance of being a team player in your role. I mean, are you guys collaborating, or you work independently? What's that look like in your role?
Yeah, being a team player is something that I really pride myself on, and I try to do that every single day. Because Chelsea and I are both in the corporate partnerships team, one of the unique things that we get the opportunity to do is not just understand external businesses at a granular level and their challenges, but we have to be really, really good at understanding every single arm of our business, from the ticketing team to the suites team, to the retail team, to the fan marketing team, the event marketing team. There's all of these different departments across our organization, and part of partnerships and sponsorships is that those events that we have, the way in which our ticketing team works with our season ticket holders, those are all engagement avenues with our fan base that partners and brands are interested in being aligned with and having exposure on. So when I think about being a team player, I try every single day to make sure that not just within our own department, that I know how my teammates are feeling, what they're up against, how I might be able to help them, but it really goes across departments for us, because at some point in time, I'm going to have to ask another member of the organization for their time, for their insight, and that is valuable to them. They could be doing something else other than helping me. So I need to make sure that that's reciprocated and that they understand I care about what they're doing, and if they ever need my help, I'm always willing to lend a hand. So I think being a team player is really, again, a fundamental aspect of what I do every single day, so that I can more effectively get my job done, and people ultimately across the organization want to help me. So when they do the work that they're doing to help me is good work. It's not just something that they're like, oh, this is Kurt again. And then they just kind of put me off for a couple days. So I think being a team player and understanding the importance of caring for everyone that you work with is really, really important.
Yeah, sure. For a big organization like that, Chelsea, we're going to send you live, and then ask you the same exact question. What is what are some of those soft skills? What is your role? More independent, team oriented?
It can be both. I wanted to take it back and just share something unique about Kurt and I. You know, we were both athletes in high school. Kurt was a big professional golfer in high school, and I was on the track and field team for a long time, and was on the track and field team at Duquesne University as well. And something interesting about those sports is that they're very individual in regards to your performance, but it ultimately contributes to a team win or a team championship. And, you know, I never played basketball. I didn't play team sports. So for me, I just grew up in this very individual mindset. And when I got to this role, you know, it was a real kind of, you know, smack in the face that, you know, you have to work as a team. You know, everything that you are doing is somehow affecting another department or another colleague. And, you know, to Kurt's point, because we are in partnerships and because our partnerships are very different and involve so many different, you know, marketing elements, we have to work with every single department in this organization. And that's not necessarily the case with the other departments, but we definitely do. So to work as a team, to get to know your colleagues, to one of the things that I struggled with when I first got here was that I wanted to work very quickly. And I had to learn over seasons that not everybody works as quickly as you do, or everybody has their own type of pace and different types of motivations. So to be able to adapt to the other folks in the organization, but also in turn, you know, kind of help them see that, hey, if we work a little bit quicker, if we work a little bit earlier on this project, we can get a lot more accomplished together. So it's definitely been something that we've had to learn. But again, going back to us being individual athletes, I think that's helped us understand some of the things that we need to do as not only individuals, but as teammates.
That's a great message. And we had that from the Pittsburgh Pirates later last week, that, you know, you guys obviously have a love for sports, and to carve out a profession and a career out of something that you love is certainly there, and doesn't necessarily have to be in track or field or golf or whatnot. But yeah, you have a love for the game, and you found a career in it. So that leads me to my next question, which we're always talking about post-secondary education. Once the kiddos graduate high school, there's a high demand for skilled labor. Talk a little bit about your role. Does it require a 2 or a 4 year, I imagine, some form of post-secondary education?
Yeah, so I graduated with a bachelor's degree in sports marketing at Duquesne University. Kurt can elaborate on his experience at Penn State. Internships are humongous in the sports industries. As a high schooler, if you're able to make a connection with somebody in sports and host a phone call or get to job shadow them, you're really going above and beyond your peers, and it's really, you know, I just want to say I had no idea what I wanted to do in high school. I mean, again, all I wanted was to go to college for track and field. Didn't think much about it, had no major interests other than that. And I was a different major going into my freshman year at Duquesne until I kind of realized, hey, maybe sports marketing is the way to go. Obviously led me to talking to you guys today. But when I was in college, internships were a high priority of something that was very needed to help you compete against your other peers, the other students in your major. And not only that, but the harsh reality is you are competing against so many other kids in this country and even globally for your job. So any connections that you can make as a freshman, as a sophomore in college, Don't wait until your junior or your senior year to try to step your foot into the sports industry. Corporate partnerships is an opportunity for you to have an internship or an assistantship. So again, just whatever you might be interested in, get yourself out there, make connections. We call it networking. If you have a LinkedIn page, highly recommend trying to make connections through LinkedIn as soon as you can.
That's great advice. We have a cheesy saying here. Kurt, I'm going to send you live. We have a cheesy saying here we use. You're networking or you're not working. So establish those connections. The vast majority of positions come from a network. So get out there, shake hands, introduce yourself. That's great advice. Kurt, right back at you. What kind of walk us through your educational path?
Yep. So as Chelsea mentioned, I was at Penn State, went to North Allegheny growing up, and went up to Penn State. Always knew I wanted to work in sports, and got this unique opportunity to shoot the T-shirt gun at sporting events going into my sophomore year. So I really just operated with a mindset that I would just say yes to every opportunity I had to be at a sporting event and working for the athletic department. That led to randomly one of the lead heads of the intern program. She ended up getting a role with the recruiting department with the Penn State football team the next semester. She was really like a mentor to me for the first semester I was working the events. And I ended up getting a job as an intern on the staff. I was scouting. So I was watching 15 plus hours of high school football games every week, doing scouting reports, really looking at like what could a career path in coaching or scouting look like. But as there was some transition at Penn State at the time, Coach O'Brien left, Coach Franklin came in. And at the time, I, again, was interested in this coaching, this scouting lifestyle. And there was a coach locally at the time that was when I was growing up and I was in high school. Coach Terry Smith was at Gateway. He ended up getting hired onto Coach Franklin's staff to be our defensive backs coach. And a huge part of Coach Franklin's mentality is you got to recruit the best players. And I knew Coach Smith was brought in to help Penn State really make our presence felt again within the Whippeal. And in Western Pennsylvania, we had really lost our footing here. So I went into his office when he was hired, and I told him I wanted to be his assistant and help him with the scouting and everything that entails. And so that was my job for the last 3 semesters I was at Penn State. I managed his recruiting travel. I scouted cornerbacks. I scouted players all throughout Western Pennsylvania, and anything else that he asked me to do, from sending mail to recruits, Twitter messages, whatever. And that's really where I found, going into that summer, he was vital in me getting an internship with the Steelers in the marketing department, because he had great connections to the organization through his time as the head coach at Gateway. We're very involved with high school football, youth football in the area. And he was vital in that process and in my resume standing out amongst the stack. As Chelsea said, that's a very competitive process. So I quickly learned the importance of meeting people, shaking hands, and understanding where you want to go and seeking people out that are going to help you get to that position that you aspire to have. So like you said, truly networking has been vital in the number one thing that I can recommend in getting me where I wanted to go. I just found every step of the way, if I had thought out people that would be important to the job that I want to get, and doing everything I can to make them feel like they want to help me as well and doing good work for them, that would get me to where I ultimately wanted to be. And thankfully it did. I'm very happy with where I'm at right now and the opportunity that I have and the brand that I'm representing.
That's a very clear-cut case of your network getting you where you are today. That's awesome. So what did you graduate with Penn State from? What kind of degree?
I was a marketing major as well. And at the time, Penn State had they have modules, they call them, but you can kind of specify exactly what you want your more advanced marketing classes to be focused on. And they had just rolled out a sports business marketing module. So I had 3 separate 400 level, the senior year marketing classes that were all focused on sports business and sports marketing. And that was after my internship with the Steelers. And I had a little bit of exposure to our corporate partnerships department at the time. That would have been back in 2014. So 6 years ago now. I was doing some work on the side, getting exposed to that work, and I really fell in love with it. And I knew that that's what I wanted to seek out moving forward after that summer. So all of my classes that year, I paid particular attention to how corporate partnerships kind of weaves across all of the different things we were talking about, and that only solidified how I had been feeling after my internship.
That's a very clear-cut case. Yep, your ability to walk up to Coach Franklin and say, hey, in that connection that he had with the Steelers. So let's transition into our last question for you guys. Kurt, why don't you tell us or share something with us in your current role, fun, interesting, and kind of like a wow, I can't believe that just happened at the Pittsburgh Steelers?
So I always joke about this with my buddies, and it's just I still I always think about like what the 5th grade version of myself would think about when I see it. But when I came in last year, a lot of what we do is luck, and I know Chelsea had talked about it at the very beginning, and it was kind of put as forward once their position here. Unfortunately, it's not always that easy, and a lot of times it requires a lot of cold emails and cold calling and just hoping that your note lands in front of the right person that ultimately has control of signing off on an investment in from a marketing level with the team. And I was lucky to make a good connection with U.S. Steel. And to this day, one of the things that just always gets me is as part of that deal, their logo is on the home team tunnel. And that's something that gets me every time I see the team run out. Last year, there's like a picture that our partners at U.S. Steel are very fond of. Is TJ Watt, when he comes out of the tunnel, likes to jump as high as he can in the air. In one of the pictures specifically, his brother JJ obviously has a pretty large following himself on the internet. He used that picture to wish him a happy birthday last year, and that was just kind of like a pinch me moment that I did that, and the NFL was sharing it. And I always try to find those opportunities where something that I worked on is kind of the background of something that I cared about so much as a little kid. And I don't take that for granted. And that's kind of what fuels me every day I come to work.
That you can tell. I'm going to send Chelsea, I'm going to send you live. You can tell, Kurt, that was a motivational portion. Chelsea, why don't you share with us kind of like a moment that you had that was like, wow, that's really cool?
It sort of has to do with work, but one thing I wasn't able to mention, when I was in college, I had interned for the Pittsburgh Passion, which is a professional women's tackle football team. Did a lot of marketing for them, and then, when I graduated from college, I ended up actually playing football for them as a defensive end for a few years. And through my relationships at the Steelers, we got to work with, we still do get to work with a lot of the players, whether for commercial or an event, and building relationships with them. And Steelers defensive linemen, Stephon Tuitt and Cam Hayward, they found out that I played football at the time, and they were kind of joking around with me that they wanted to come out and see a Passion game. And I was like, no way, like, you guys don't care, And so my final season with the Passion a few years ago, Stephon and Cam came out to a game with their families and were in the front row cheering for the Pittsburgh Passion, and came up to me at halftime. Had one of the best games that I'd ever had. I had like 3 or 4 sacks that game. And to have those guys actually come out was just an experience I'll never forget, that, hey, these guys are actually very humble, really good football players and good community members. And essentially they are our colleagues. We don't get to work with them all the time or see them all the time, but that was an experience I'll never forget, and having those guys come out. And obviously I'm incredibly rooting for them on game days as well. So it was cool.
That is a really cool story to have them, come out and check you out. That's really cool too. You were playing football.
I'm retired now, so
you're retired now.
It was fun.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to Ann, and first off, I want to shout out to all of our participants that are on there. Feel free to throw your Q&A out. I'm going to turn it over to Ann. I'm sure she has some questions, and yeah, our participants, throw some questions out for our Kurt and Chelsea. So, Ann?
Yeah, thank you. I know one that came up when we spoke with our representative from the Pirates had to do with what can high schoolers do now if they're interested in maybe sports management. They know that being a professional athlete is probably not in the cards, and they want to stay close to sports. So outside of, let's say, participating in an actual sports team, are there other things that you would recommend they get involved with now to help them along their pathway?
Yeah, I will say, and just to be very clear, within an NFL organization or any sports teams, there's a lot of jobs. It's not just corporate partnerships or ticket sales. We have accountants, we have graphic designers, we have product buyers in our merchandise department. We've got, Kurt, we've got, everybody from marketing to accounting. So, and obviously there's the football operations side of things where you can be a scout or a coach or an analyst, personal trainer. So there's plenty of positions that all make up one NFL or one professional sports team. So don't feel like you have to go the sports marketing route, although it's again, for us, just one of the funnest things that we get to do on a daily basis. And I also want to say that, I remember being really nervous in high school and even in college to reach out to some folks in the sports industry. I just felt like, oh my gosh, like, why would they ever give me 5 minutes to talk to me on the phone or in person? I connect with anybody who reaches out to me via LinkedIn or is encouraging of wanting a phone call with me, or just to exchange a couple of questions via email. So even as a high schooler, if you're interested in making any connections, you can go to a website, go to the front office page. Sometimes you can find a direct email for anybody at that team, but don't hesitate to reach out. Don't be nervous to reach out. This is your life and what you want to do. So if you want to learn more about it, or learn about what you can do prior to college, just reach out.
Awesome. And Kurt, I'm going to send you live. Same question, same deal. What can they be doing out there?
Yeah, I would say, to Chelsea's point, just to reiterate that, I'm the same way. Anytime someone reaches out to me, I try to make time. So I think that's something that's very echoed across everyone in my department, everyone I've worked with elsewhere. We want to make time for you. We see ourselves in you if you're passionate about what you want to do, and I never forget that. So it's fun to talk to you guys. It gives me fuel again every day because I can hear how much you guys think what I do is interesting. And I think that's cool that you think what I'm doing is cool. I think another thing that you guys can be doing is I would really recommend just being a kid and soaking up all of those experiences because they all become relatable to what you end up doing in the real world, and you'll be surprised. Just get as involved as you can in your high schools with your sports teams. That's all networking too. You're going to be amazed by the time you're even my age where some of your classmates end up, and how it can randomly just help you with what you're trying to do, whether that's getting your own job, or for me, now I know some of my classmates, both from North Allegheny and Penn State, are working on brands that I think could potentially, maybe they're a fit for the Steelers and we could end up working together. So just being very involved in your schools, and being very present in where you are in your life right now, I think is all that you can be doing. And yeah, like Chelsea said, we're always willing to talk.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate that preemptive offer. So we do have a question that came in. Do you ever travel with the players to different places where they play? And it's a two-parter. Have you always worked at Heinz Field?
So the first one, I have not yet gotten the opportunity. I've only been back in town and with the team for a season now, so this is my second season. And as you guys are probably aware, with everything going on, we're trying to limit as much exposure as possible with the team right now. So that kind of travel just isn't happening right now. Chelsea and my boss, as well as our boss's boss, are regularly on the team plane, regularly traveling. So that is also one of those unique things and experiences about what we do. Our boss always tells the story. Sometimes you'll arrive at the away team hotel and one of the fans that's waiting for autographs somehow thinks that you're a player too. And you always have to tell them, no, I'm not. I don't want to ruin your autograph football. But yeah, that is something that is a possibility and something that we could get to do. And then on the working at Heinz Field front, our offices are in the Post-Gazette building right on the North Shore now. So when I interned and when we first got here, our offices were at Heinz Field. They still pretty much are. We have access to the stadium if we ever need to get in to take pictures for potential mock-up for signage, or just think about something that we're proposing and how the execution of it would work on a game day. So the access and being at Heinz Field whenever we want, if we need to be there, is definitely something that normally we have, and it is a cool part to be able to have that access. If it's a nice day outside, go sit and eat your lunch in the stadium. Those kind of things are fun to do.
Yeah, I can only imagine. All right, well, Chelsea, I'm going to send you live with the same question, and maybe you can give an example of when you traveled, since you've been able to do that.
Yeah, COVID, no traveling, but the last trip that we took was to Arizona last December. One of the cool parts about our job, again, comes back to client relationships and getting to host clients for fancy dinners and hosting them for some VIP opportunities at events or at games, or giving them field access while the players are warming up. And it's always, it's a lot of work. It's definitely not a vacation, but it's always, I'd say it's always really cool to meet these CEOs and these high-level executives, and just to get to know them on a very personal level on these trips and these weekends that we take with the players. Something unique, we actually take 2 planes. One plane's for the players and the coaches, and the other plane is for, the staff and the clients that we take. We used to take one big giant plane, which are really only used for taking these NFL teams across the country to the various games that we have. But it's a really cool experience to again, just be around the players and the coaches, and to kind of have this private lifestyle that folks don't always get the exposure for. But Heinz Field in general is obviously one of the most iconic buildings here in Pittsburgh, and to have the moments, as Kurt talked about, where you can kind of stand in an empty stadium or stand in the full stadium with the 68,000 fans cheering and waving their terrible towels. Those are moments that Kurt and I definitely are envious of, and really miss that in a pre-COVID environment.
Yeah, I'm sure that is the case. And thank you for sharing that when you travel with the team, it's not a vacation. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who maybe feel that way, but work travel isn't always a vacation. So thanks for sharing that. I do have one more question that I would like to throw out. Oh, we just had one more come through, so let me ask that. Do you get to go to the home games to watch the Steelers play?
Last year we did, and every year after that. Kurt and I, unfortunately, are watching from home this year. But yeah, as it pertains to partnerships, Kurt is normally hosting clients in our suites, getting to build relationships with our partners and some, prospective partners that we're looking to be a part of our organization in the future. For me, every single game is different. It all depends on, we call them activations, is Ford, hosting an experience around their Ford truck outside of the stadium? Are we doing a giveaway during the game? Are we recognizing somebody on the field? So again, it's every game is a little bit different. And again, not a vacation, not a watching only experience. We are working a clear 8 hours a day at these games, and yes, enjoying every touchdown that we get, and getting to hear the fans cheer. But we're normally doing a lot of activating, if you will, during those home games. Thank you.
And Kurt, would you be willing to share what your experience is like during a game as well?
Yeah, it's we like to have a good time. We like to show our clients kind of what it would be like to be a partner of the team. Some are, others are prospects, as Chelsea said, and that's really my job. Is on game days, we're trying to kind of showcase our platform. Sometimes they're in the process of reviewing a proposal or considering a proposal, and signage within the stadium is something that's within that program that we've built out for them. So like to kind of just point out and show it in live action, how it's working, what's going on. Other times, it's not easy to get Steelers tickets. So if there's a particular prospect or company that we just haven't really been, we feel adamant could have a potential partnership with the team, but we haven't been able to get them out. We haven't been able to get them to dinner, haven't been able to get them on a phone call. Sometimes that Steelers ticket is finally the way that they say, well, I just checked StubHub and I'm not willing to pay that much, so I'll take this ticket. So that's really what my pre-game day experience is like. And then on game day, I always try to focus one thing. It's a little bit different than what Chelsea's talking about, because she's really focused on that fulfillment and making sure what we're doing that's contractually obligated is done. I like also making sure that outside of my hosting responsibilities and making sure people are having a good time, that I'm just staying aware of. Maybe there's a specific spot in the stadium where a lot of people are congregated and there's not signage, or there's not entertainment, or there's not something going on that could help, or something's just not functioning correctly. And one of the things that we're able to do now on the partnerships team is, say there's a specific spot in the stadium where fans are just bottlenecking, or not being able to get to their seats fast enough, or the security lines are taking forever. Those are all services that we pay for as an organization. And there's technology companies out there now that are solving these problems. There's companies out there right here in Pittsburgh that are helping make traffic be more efficient on game day. So those are all opportunities and things that we're all keeping an open eye towards, where if this is becoming something that's really hurting the fan experience, one of the ways that we can improve the fan experience is by being aware of companies out there that can help us fix it. And there's value for them in being able to say, we fix this, we're a partner of the Steelers, and then taking that out into the marketplace and winning more business, or being able to translate that to other sectors where they're able to help solve those problems. So showing that the Steelers trust us to help us solve this problem can go a long way in your marketing to really help push your business forward. So I'm always keeping an eye to that too, and just making sure that the fan experience as a whole is something that is being delivered at its best.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, and speaks so much of what we don't know as fans happens behind the scenes, that you're orchestrating so much. And as someone who was born and raised in Pittsburgh and has only had the opportunity to go to one game, I appreciate what you're saying about the tickets. So I hear you there. So in the interest of time, I will throw out my last question to both of you. Kurt, since you're on screen, we can start with you. What advice do you have to some of our high schoolers, maybe even specifically seniors who are out there who are just trying to figure out what comes next and navigate all of these choices that they have to make in the coming couple of months?
I would just say, think really hard about what you're passionate about and then go pursue it passionately. And I've that's been my motto to live by. I knew I loved sports. I didn't know where that would take me or what that would end up. I thought for a while I wanted to be Scott Van Pelt on SportsCenter. Then I wanted to work for the team and feel part of each of the wins. And that led me from an operational role to, am I going to be a coach or a scout, to now I'm selling corporate partnerships and spending my game days with, to Chelsea's point, executives, CEOs, and having to really use my marketing degree and my understanding of business to help the organization. So I just knew I wanted to work in sports, and I really let my life and my journey through college kind of show me where I wanted to go. So it doesn't have to be at a really granular level where you have an understanding right now of what you want to do. Just know the thing that really draws your attention, that makes you want to get up in the morning and go do that, and then go try to find a way to work in that. And it could be that you end up being the quarterback for the Steelers, or you could end up just sitting in the office and representing the brand, but you'll find fulfillment in it either way.
Awesome. Thank you. And Chelsea, same question. What advice do you have out there?
I'll say this, I recognize that you guys are in a very unique situation with COVID and, having classes online, unsure and frustrated that you don't know what your freshman year is going to look like in college. You are still able to control what you can control and take advantage of the things that you want to take advantage of. Try not to fight the things that you can't control and the situation that the entire world is in right now and could be in for the next year or so. Make the most of things, get creative. You still have, we're usually telling this to seniors in college right now who are nervous about getting a job, but there's still things that you can do, things that you can learn about, people that you can meet and things that you can explore. Take advantage of every single opportunity that is given to you in high school, in college. My parents did not go to college. I was the first one to go to school, and for exhaustive as it was with classes and track and internships, you can do it. And again, this is where Kurt and I are sitting today because of the choices that we made, the hard work that we put in, and the connections that we made. So good luck to all of you guys. Wishing you guys the best. Stay safe, stay healthy, and go Steelers.
Go Steelers indeed. All right, well, thank you so much to Chelsea and to Kurt for joining us today. Thank you to our participants out there who tuned in. We really appreciate everybody who joined us this morning. And again, thank you for spending an hour with us and answering questions about your job and your experience. Nick, do you have anything else that you would like to add here at the end?
Yeah, I would like to put Kurt and Chelsea on the spot and ask them, would they be comfortable if we made an announcement and shared their emails? Hey, you're not working or not working.
Absolutely.
Sure.
I will want to talk to all you guys. Like I said, feel free to shoot us a note. Maybe Chelsea and I can set up the call so we have them at the same time.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you again, guys. And yeah, that'll be all. We're going to wrap this up. Thanks.
Take care, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you.